Hello friends, welcome to the channel AptiTuber for CLAT. This is the third section of CLAT 2025 Legal Reasoning. The Contract Act 1872 deals with contract law in India, its rights, duties and exceptions arising out of it. Section 2H of that gives the definition of a contract, which is simply an agreement enforceable by law. So by this uh, two lines, we understand that there is a term called agreement, which if enforceable by law becomes contract. Okay. To understand the difference between void agreements and voidable contracts, there are certain sections mentioned. Okay. Now void agreements are fundamentally invalid because you know uh, they're unenforceable by default, and they're like they have illegal elements, and even if both the parties want it, they cannot do it. So void agreements are like completely off the track. However, voidable contract are those which give either of the party uh, the power to enforce it. So so to those who do not understand what is contract agreement, simply agreement between two parties, what they have discussed, if it's enforceable by law, it becomes contract. And we also see that there is void and voidable, so those kind of terms have been used. So I'm talking with respect to somebody who hadn't prepared much. Those who had prepared even the basics would know what is void, and that is how it is. You would have heard the term any which ways, null and void. Basically that is the same, in the same context that void is being used. Okay, so void agreement, there are certain things, there are some defects which may be okay. So valid agreement can be a contract that is valid or voidable. An agreement, if valid, becomes this. The primary difference between a void agreement and a voidable contract is that void agreement cannot be converted into a contract. So what we have understood till now is an agreement that is enforceable by law becomes a contract. A valid agreement can either be a valid contract or a voidable contract. Okay, and the second category would be not valid agreement, right? So that has been called as void agreement. So that cannot be converted into any kind of contract. I think you have understood the two things. Now let's move forward. Which of the following best describes a void agreement? A void agreement are those which are fundamentally, it is mentioned, enforceable, unenforceable by default. Okay. So second one from the beginning itself, right? A contract between two parties to rob a bank. Rob a bank becomes illegal. I think illegal elements have been mentioned in void agreements, right? So to share purchase can transact void. So these are not valid, legally enforceable. Both these things, they are not there. Voidable is something which can be done with certain rectification. Something of that sort is what felt. But it is completely void, right? It is completely illegal. Now the third question in the passage. An agreement made by an adult but involving a minor child where the signatory is a minor child himself, his agreement would be. Now there is one thing about minor and not minor has not been mentioned at all in this passage. Till now, you could have solved it with the knowledge given only in the passage, but the third one requires an external knowledge. So I'm assuming that since it is clearly mentioned a minor child, and we know certain rights revolving around minor child, so I have mentioned it as void agreement. There might be a case somebody says it's not a void, it's avoidable, because a simple change might be that you involve their parents as or something of that sort might be there. So since it seems void because nothing of that sort has been mentioned that change can be made to it, so I'm assuming that, so I would go with a void agreement. Now the fourth question would be, Void agreement. Okay, most likely result in a void agreement. A contract with a minor who understands the terms. So maybe even this might result in void agreement, but I wanted to have a different answer. Over here I've already mentioned it, a void agreement. I felt an agreement signed by someone under duress. So somebody might say that I was um, not comfortable while answering the while signing the agreement, so that is why that has to be there. This is okay. This also seems a little illegal. So uh, there are a lot of options, but I have gone with this. I think even D could also be the right one. Okay. Without consideration again. So there are certain legalities in which we might have to go to accurately answer the question. It depends upon what kind of answer key the consortium uses. But prima facie, I feel these to be the answers. These two, I think, are quite clear. From here, these three things may be debatable, but I would go with C, A, and D. Yeah. Okay. Now, 11th passage as per the set of this paper, and you can check with your own question paper. Okay, I hope you have your carbonized OMR sheet as well. The Supreme Court declared the right of privacy is a fundamental right. Okay. And right to informational privacy. Okay. So if you would have read this passage by pausing the video, or if in case you have solved it in actual exam, Supreme Court of India has declared right to privacy as a fundamental right. And there are, these imply on Indian citizens, businesses, non-citizens living in India, and all those things. Okay. So the consent or legitimate use, these two things are very important, right? There should be grievance redressal, a summary of all collected data, right to correction, completion, and a lot of rights have been mentioned. Okay, let's see which all questions have been asked, and then accordingly you can answer. Third party sharing explicit consent, right? If a person withdraws the consent, over here it is mentioned that right to withdraw the consent. Okay. So comply with the rigor and stop rigor. Right to access. Over here, even A could be correct. So if you have marked A and B, both of them could be correct. Maybe A, maybe B. Yeah, A and B, both of them seems to be correct. So over here A, then B, then C, then A or B. I have gone with B, and 62 is D. Yeah. Now this passage is about prevention of unfair means and a lot of ways, right? I think a good initiative. Let's see how it pans out. But there was a lot of hue and cry about what happened about NEET and other exams. So leakage of question paper or answer key directly or indirectly assisting examination, tampering with the computer system or computer resource, creation of fake website. Okay. Not less than 3 years, but maybe extended to 5 years and up to 10 lakhs. This is what has been mentioned, and this is the punishment. Now, a service provider is a separate category that has been mentioned. Till now, the passage goes in one form. The second part is a service provider, conduct of the examination up to 1 crore and proportionate cost of examination. So, both these things combined, right? Okay. And for 4 years, she would be barred. Okay. Now, bill becomes an act only when, over here it is mentioned, the bill had received assent from president, and the bill gives assent, right? A service provider has helped. Service provider, if uh, has to pay up to 1 crore and proportionate cost of examination, right? So I think up to 1 crore till here it is fine, these two have said, but this does not talk about the proportionate, and this is saying the entire cost of conduct of examination. I'm not sure if entire should be used. I think it should be proportionate, right? So I've gone with D. D. Now the invigilator if found guilty. So invigilator would come under the top category, right? I like this question the most. I think this is my favorite question from the entire legal reasoning. So imprisonment of 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 4 year, or respective fines. So first of all, for a term not less than 3 years. Not less than 3 years means 3 years or 4 years. So these two, C or D. And up to 10 lakhs. Up to 10 lakhs means D. So this is how I arrived at it. That of the given options, this D1 seems to be the most appropriate. I think it's very logical question that has been asked. Well, let's see. 66. So it talks about not an unfair means. Important to note, not. So the coaching center conducting mock test. So mock tests are okay, right? Not a service provider. Again, coaching center does not seem to be the service provider because it is not conducting the exam in any which ways. It is just preparing the students. I hope the last three questions are clear. These two are, I think, fairly clear. Yeah. Okay. The 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. So this is one of the very important constitutional amendment. I think this is something that you should have read. And also articles 14, 19 and 21. So this is talking about 21. Okay. So I hope you have gone through the article. Let's go to the questions. 42nd Amendment Act. Actually, this is not mentioned in the passage. This is something that we had to use from our outside passage knowledge. So this is second and third. This is B. May take, should explore, may formulate, shall take. I think shall take adequate measures. This is something of a not left on a free will. It is binding commitment. So this is also should, but then it says explore the possibility, and this is more assertive. So over here the answer should have been more assertive. So I've gone with section A. Again, this is Article 51 AG talks about. So this is fundamental duties. In that it talks about rivers and lakes and forests and wildlife. I think this could have been guessed that natural environment should constitute these two and not the sea, because sea would also have human beings. So something that could have been logical, but obviously having a context helped here. 71st, I have gone with the D. Some people might choose C as well, but yeah, I have gone with the D. 72nd is A, and 73rd is D. Again, this is outside knowledge, beyond the scope of the passage. So in legal reasoning, I suppose they have had certain sections wherein you require to have knowledge beyond the passage as well. Now talking about the next passage, I think we are left with two more passages. So children come in contact of the criminal justice system. Over here, criminal justice system and children have been put in place, like the combination has been discussed of children and criminal justice system. And there is this National Crime Records Bureau. Okay. So difficulties at school and all those things have been mentioned. Difficulty in school, drugs, alcohol, act aggressively, and criminal behavior. Yeah, all of the above. Somebody might choose punishment, somebody would say C. I have gone with B, that is punishment of the offenders, for the reason that it says to punish the transgressors and the criminals. So, this is the reason why I've gone with punishment of the offenders. 76th, it seems the most obvious out of these. Yeah. 77th, over here it is mentioned. In terms of percentage, the top categories under crime against children were kidnapping and abduction, followed by POXO. So first is kidnapping, second number is POXO, right? Kidnapping and abduction. POXO, if you can see, POCSO, the protection of children from sexual offenses. Again, it required a bit of external information. So children word had to be there, and out of these two, W seemed extra, so that's why I would have chosen A. But yeah, I knew it already from outside knowledge, so yeah, that could be something that you could have prepared. Yeah, this was dicey. Limited access to vocational training, physical abuse, mental and behavioral disorders, all these things have been mentioned. I think a fairly easy passage if you do not get drilled into all these kind of facts. Just no need, right? I don't think any of these facts were at all needed. Just this line, that's it, out of the entire passage from here till here. Now the second passage was still useful, but the first passage was so outdated. Vocational training, physical abuse, all those things. Yeah. Okay. Geographical indications, again not true. So geographical indications, GI, is specifically for uh, geographic origin. So originating from a specific region. So it is very place sensitive. Darjeeling tea has to be from Darjeeling. Otherwise, it should be called tea or green tea or something of that sort. But if you are using Darjeeling word, it should be from that. Similarly, there are a lot of other things. I think there is one more, Bikaneri Bhujia. So that also has to be from Bikaner. Otherwise, a person is not allowed legally. Yeah. So that is how there are certain things which have been officially given the significance of geographical indications. Suppose you are from a place called XYZ and you say apples of XYZ. So that is not true. It has to be specific to that place. It has to be recognized that yes, being an apple of XYZ place has yielded it a different kind of characteristic. So that is what is clearly mentioned in the passage. This is completely solvable from the passage. C. Okay. C. Then over here B. Outside. Then legally contested. Yeah. There is nothing like not Darjeeling tea. You cannot have a different GI name. Again, as I mentioned, GI name are very specific. They are being given for a certain reason. They are not negation. They are always assertion. They are not negating anything like not champagne or something of that sort. They are not anything. They have to be what it is actually. Yeah. So that is GI name. 82nd is C. I don't see not a potential consequence. All the three are consequence. I am not sure why C be a consequence. So I've gone with answer C. Geographic origin, distinctive qualities. Distinctive qualities. Specific qualities. Used to identify products with specific qualities or characteristics due to their geographic origin. So that is our distinctive specific qualities. And 84th is C. Uniform product labeling. Product labeling is a broad term. You would have heard recently that people are saying you should read product labels before buying them, especially for food processing products. So that is product labeling. So that is quite a broader term. Harmonize intellectual property laws, again broad. I think these three are quite broad. This is specific to geographical indications among WTO members. It is mentioned under the WTO. So TRIPS agreement under the WTO would require TRIPS to be applicable to only WTO members. I think very basic um, knowledge was required in most of the questions, yeah, except a few. So fairly decent section. Let me know how much have you scored in this section. Thank you.